It can be argued that the ideal of human personality, of human psychological development, is integration around a non finite aspiration, around a non finite object. What does that mean concretely? First of all, what would we mean by integration? What would we mean by that kind of psychological development? We say that whereas each anatomy is discrete, aside from some nuance as it concerns, for example, conjoined twins, internally, certainly, there is not always a commensurately discrete individual psychological experience. Meaning, it is not as if continuity of selfhood or even any coherent selfhood is automatically given, is automatically present by way of the baby. It's something that develops, it's something that takes time and effort to develop. And we see that in order to develop some coherence and continuity of selfhood, some sort of substantial integration, um, generally or perhaps always, some sort of end, some sort of objective is needed. And the personality sort of clusters, we could say, or develops around that end or that objective. And without some such end, we remain just a series of discontinuities. We remain just a revolving series of different kinds of experiences, different kinds of appetites, different kinds of impulses, and such. So, for example, um, let's say that as a little kid, I'm not yet internally a self, right? And then I find some kind of aspiration. I want to be a good student. I want to be a good athlete. When I grow up, I want to do this. I want to do that. And around this aim, then, all of these different elements of personality can integrate, can cohere, and I can experience myself more and more so as a concrete, continuously existent person. Now, this sort of integration is certainly deemed to be a good, right? Because even without it, we have some sort of human self awareness or self consciousness that animals certainly, presumably, do not have. And consequently, experiencing life as just a continual series of starts and stops, random interests, random things grab my attention constantly. I want this, then I want that, then I'm sad, then I'm happy, then I'm angry, then I'm joyous. It's no good. And some kind of dim feeling of dissatisfaction, at least we have, and overall a state of inadequacy as it concerns our life. So integration is a good, right? But the question is around what should we integrate? And here we see that uh, usually the usual course of affairs is to integrate around some sort of immediately available, empirical, finite objective. So, for example, to make money or to be a particular career, right? Or to have a particular career, to be a particular kind of person in some kind of outward sense, right? I'm going to integrate around my looks. This is how I want to look. This is what I want my lifestyle to be. This is the kind of money that I want to earn. This is the kind of career that I want to have. And consequently, we see that I can quite literally become something vis a vis some such self chosen end. Right? A person, for example, picks money as that around which they shall integrate. At first, it's simply an idea, right? It's simply kind of an ambiguous conception. But if a person seriously develops in that direction, by the time that maturity and stability of character is reached, it could be that really this person is essentially, in a very deep intrinsic sense, the kind of person that aspires after money. Right? Somebody as a, gets into farming, right, or is born to farmer parents. At first, it's like, oh, this is something I do. This is something my family does. Some years down the line, if I stick with it, I can be really fundamentally, deeply a farmer. If you took away farming from me, you would break apart my personality. Just like if you took away the possibility of earning profit from the person that is integrated around money, you would break that person apart. Somebody has integrated around um, fame, right? Around having attention on him or her, on having the spotlight on him or her. Now, that is then who I am. You take that away from me, I no longer know who I am. A person becomes a spouse, a parent. This is who I am. This is how I define myself. It's not simply just a biographical fact. I am a parent. You get the idea? So we see that these things that initially are just kind of ideas are initially just things that we hear about. Oh, here's the career, here's the lifestyle, here's the role. With time, right? As we integrate around it, it becomes really who we are. Right? Now, the question then is, what would be the ideal such object around which to integrate, towards which to move as it concerns the development of personality? And the proposition suggested was that it ought to be a non-finite end. It ought to be a non-finite aspiration. Right? We see that all of these things that were mentioned are things that are, again, immediately apprehendable. Here's the career. Here's a role in society. I can be a farmer. I can be in commerce. I can be a trader. If that's different. I can be this. I can be that. And now I'm going to become this. However, the idea seems to be that if we want to develop the higher sorts of human personality, free, creative, truly satisfactory human individuality, then we can't do that. We need to aim at something that is not thus finite. Now, what is that specifically speaking? Well, we can say what it's not. It's not anything finite. Right? It's not, I will become fundamentally this career or this kind of person. I won't settle for that. Right? And we see further that people are endowed, if we pay attention, with innately infinite, we could say, desire, right? Infinite aspiration, which is testified to by the fact that nothing particular ever satisfies on definition. It is not possible to eat a good enough meal, to stay at a good enough hotel, to have a good enough vacation, to whatever it might be, to live in a good enough home, to be perfectly and fully content forever after. Unless, unfortunately, that's our last moment. Right? So we see that that also indicates that we have some sort of aspiration for the non-finite. So we take that ambiguous sense, again, granted, ambiguous as it at first is, of some sort of unfinite object, of some sort of unfinite aspiration, an object which is not anything finite, again, to get more concrete, which is not a phone, which is not a TV, which is not a cloud, which is not a role in society, which is not a career. Right? And again, we can consider that aspiration that we have that is never satisfied by anything. And then we place that at the focal point of our budding personality. And then hopefully we integrate around it. And that person, or that might be the means wherewith, again, that higher human personality can be attained to. Because if I truly become, in my essential deep, in an essential deeper sense, I truly become some role in society, right? Looking back in the past, I truly became an ancient Roman. Not that I would call myself an ancient, but from our perspective today, I really became an ancient Roman senator, or I really became a Phoenician trader, or an ancient Egyptian, tomb guard or something. That's who I became. And that's that's about it. I took my individuality, my humanity, to which limits cannot easily or at all be kind of put upon. And I squeezed it into this tiny little definition, this tiny little uh, historically conditioned, geographically conditioned, culturally conditioned individuality. And that does not suffice for beings such as ourselves, for human beings. So, consequently, the antidote to that would not be, it seems, to avoid integration, right? I'm just going to remain kind of an amorphous blob, right? A nobody. I don't want to settle for any kind of role. I don't want to be any kind of particular person. That wouldn't seem to be it. We need integration. We need to be psychologically put together. It's just the question of around what. And here the suggestion would be put ourselves together around the notion of an infinite object, an infinite aspiration. As ambiguous as that is at first, and then hopefully mature and move in that direction so we can consider it. Thank you for listening.